So just to summarize where we were last time, what we talked about primarily were sort of both that the poor face a lot of risk and that they do a lot of things to mitigate risk, but those things are not necessarily good for them. So the examples we talked about are, for example, going to work when your income goes down, but when you go to work when your income goes down, typically that's when everybody else's income also went down, so they also all go to work. That drives wages down and makes everybody potentially worse off. So in principle, this is, and the second example, maybe we talk, what's another example of a costly thing you could do to mitigate risk? Yeah?
Farm several pieces of land that are far apart from each other.
Right. Farm several pieces of land far apart so that they don't have the same risk profile.
You could choose not to take a crop that might be more successful because you're worried that if you spend money to buy new seeds and it doesn't turn out to be successful, then you lose more money than if you just used your seeds from the previous crop.
Any other?
Choosing a bunch of different jobs that specialize in one.
Yeah, choosing a bunch of different jobs rather than doing one. Why do you want to specialize?
I mean, it allows you to become more productive,
Right.
more skilled.
So you give up, sorry?
Efficiency.
Efficiency, exactly. You just get better at a job if you do it more with more company. Yeah.
So you get worse at the other jobs. If you're doing multiple jobs, it's harder for you to do good at any particular job.
Yeah.
Just
So you-
like dropping a class. Like if you're doing 15 classes, you probably do,
15 is a high number. Okay, so I think you can see the logic of this. So the question is, we already talked a bit about the kind of the market for insurance. What we didn't talk as much about is why don't people help each other? You know, one solution to this problem is just helping each other. And so the logic of helping each other is very, very simple. We each get maybe independent shocks, and so it's quite likely that, you know, when somebody else gets a shock, I don't, and vice versa. So we can kind of split the shock. So anything bad happens, we don't bear all of it. We can pass on a part of it to somebody else. That seems straightforward. So why doesn't that solve most problems? That's sort of the question we're going to spend some time thinking about. It's a very simple idea, right? We don't need to go to an insurance company. We can just pool together our own risk.
Shocks are like too expensive, like if you like hospitalization costs, like how many people are you going to pull together for that? And sometimes people think that they shouldn't have to pay for someone else's.
How many people should we put together?
As many as possible.
Why as many as possible?
Because then it's more diversified.
Right. So if we think that, so if you have this example, if you know the probability here, let's say they have independent probabilities. Two people, they have a probability, you know, of a quarter that they both end up with a bad shock, right? What's that probability if there were n people?
1 over n squared.
N squared. Think about what the probability is. The probability is half that. I think you meant the other. You just inverted the exponents. It's 1 over 2 to the power n. You just, I think you're writing it in. Yeah. It's 1 over 2 to the power n. So as n goes to infinity, the number of people who get shocks together is going to 0. So that's sort of very simple idea. So question is, why doesn't it happen? And that's sort of what we're going to spend our time talking about.